A man doesn't destroy his life in one dramatic moment. He loses it in small choices he thinks won't matter. A skipped boundary, a favor that stretches too far, a connection he lets in before he understands what it costs. Ask any man past 50 who finally got his life together. A man at this age doesn't rise by accident. He rises because he finally stopped betraying himself. The danger never came from loneliness. It came from the moments that looked harmless, the same way a loose thread ruins the stitching of an entire jacket before you notice what's unraveling. It turns your days into something you don't recognize, bit by bit, decision by decision. But here's the real truth no one says out loud. A woman can bring warmth, connection, and a sense of life, or she can take you off the course that was finally leading you back to yourself. When I ask older man why his life went sideways, and he'll rarely blame loneliness, but he might blame one relationship that started with, "This will be simple." So today we're not talking about fear. We're talking about clarity. 5 reasons a man over 50 must think differently about relationships. Not to avoid love, but to avoid losing the years he worked the hardest for. You've paid too many prices to become this version of yourself, and nothing in your life now should dim that strength. If any part of that hits something inside you, stay with me. This might be the first message in a long time that speaks directly to the man you're becoming now. If you've been walking through life feeling unseen or misunderstood, this message won't ask you to change. It will simply help you see yourself again. Peace isn't found by adding more to your life. It's found by subtracting what distracts you. Most attention after 50 comes from stability, not chemistry. There's a shift that appears quietly as a man gets older. People notice him more, not because he suddenly changed, but because his life finally looks steady. There's order in his days, calm in his decisions, and a kind of grounding that only time can build. And that stability is powerful. It attracts interest quickly, sometimes too quickly. It's the same way a polished car draws attention long before anyone asks about the man behind the wheel. What many men mistake for personal connection is often something simpler. Someone admiring the life around him, not necessarily the man within it. A neighbor admired my garden for weeks, but stopped visiting the moment the flowers wilted. That was the day I understood admiration isn't the same as connection. My former colleague David is in his 60s. Every woman he dated praised his stability until he stopped giving free advice and free repairs, and the admiration disappeared overnight. And here's a simple truth. Attention can look warm, but only consistency reveals who's truly meant for your life. When people show up for the comfort around you instead of the man you are inside, they're visiting a lifestyle, not building a life with you. The stability, the reliability, the sense of safety he carries without thinking about it. There's nothing wrong with that, but it becomes a problem when a man assumes it means more than it does. Because once interest is built on comfort, the weight changes early. Expectations grow before the bond does. He starts adjusting his rhythm for someone who hasn't earned that space. It starts small. One canceled golf morning, one skipped TV night, and suddenly his schedule looks like it belongs to someone else. A man doesn't reach this stage of life by accident. He earns it, one hard decision at a time. The relationship begins leaning on the life he built, not on who he truly is. A life that finally feels firm can be unsettled by the smallest pull long before a man realizes what's slipping away. Stoicism teaches a man to look at the roots of things, to understand what a connection is made of before he gives it a place in his world. When the foundation is admiration for his lifestyle, It won't sustain him in the long run. It takes from his energy instead of adding to it. Even George Clooney, one of Hollywood's most recognizable actors, once said that admiration for a lifestyle is nothing like admiration for a person. The first disappears fast. The second lasts. A man who sees clearly chooses slowly. He protects the life he worked decades to rebuild. He invites people into his own based on alignment, not on how much they appreciate the order of his world. A man moves forward fastest when he builds connections that add to his life instead of rearranging it. If that line felt like someone finally said what you've been thinking, you're not alone here. A man's peace grows deeper when he guards the way of living that took him years to build. That's the advantage of being older. You can see what something truly is and select only what honors the man you have become. Freedom starts disappearing long before a man notices. For a man over 50, freedom doesn't disappear in arguments. It disappears on the days he quietly moves his plans aside for someone else. One missed workout here, one skipped hobby there, and suddenly his time no longer feels like it belongs to him. A plan changed, a personal habit pushed aside, a day shaped around someone else's tempo. Nothing feels heavy at first. That's why it gets past a man's guard. Men over 50 often adapt too quickly because they've spent years avoiding pointless tension. It's like nudging a picture frame a little each day. You only see the difference when it finally looks wrong. A man doesn't lose his ground in one mistake. He loses it by saying it's fine too many times. But the truth is simple. The moment a man rearranges the parts of his life that keep him grounded, the relationship starts taking more room than it should. His mornings lose their anchor. The patterns that keep him sharp begin to fade. And without meaning to, he starts living around someone else's flow. A man at this stage hasn't come this far to let anyone rewrite the life he finally understands. His daily structure is like the beams of an old house. Ignore them, and even small pressure becomes trouble. And once the things that keep him centered become negotiable, everything else loosens. His priorities, his focus, his sense of personal space. Not because anyone forced him, but because he stopped protecting the parts of his life that keep him anchored on the inside. Stoicism reminds us to guard what steadies the mind. Time, mental room, personal rhythm. These aren't luxuries after 50, they're survival. Before committing to anyone, write down the 3 habits that keep your head clear. Those must stay untouched, no exceptions. A connection that truly fits a man's life never makes him shrink. It doesn't compete with the way he lives. It doesn't pull him sideways. It either supports his world or drains it. And here's the moment the older men overlook. The smallest concession in the wrong place costs more than a big mistake in the right one. He learns that protecting his life isn't selfish. It's how he stays strong. And at this age, compromise shouldn't mean giving up the parts of the day that keep him sharp or pretending to enjoy things he's outgrown. This is where steadiness returns, not by pushing people away, but by refusing to give pieces of himself to someone who hasn't earned them. A man who's lived enough years knows this truth. The life he has now exists because he finally chose to keep what matters. What part of your life took you the longest to reclaim? You've spent years shaping a life that finally feels right. Anyone who enters it should make your days lighter, not heavier. Emotional weight shifts faster than a man expects. Something subtle happens when a new connection enters a man's life after 50. The emotional load tilts toward him almost by default, not because he offers to carry it, but because he looks calm enough to hold what others can't manage anymore. At first, it feels gentle, a small concern shared, a bit of reassurance asked for, an hour of support. Nothing overwhelming. That's how it begins. Kai, my mentor, once told me about a short connection he stepped into a while back. Just a few weeks, nothing dramatic. He ended it gently, not because she lacked goodness, but because he realized he wasn't ready to let anyone rearrange the parts of his life that were finally working. Just like one missed medication doesn't seem serious until the pattern sticks. When a man starts holding more worries than the person they belong to, something inside him slowly runs out. He feels the weight landing on him not because he agreed to it, but because he looked like the safest place in the room. He becomes the calm during storms he didn't create. And it happens because men at this age know how to listen, not because they're meant to absorb everything. People start turning to him because his experience feels steady even when theirs isn't. He becomes the person others trust by instinct, even when he didn't ask for that role. He turns into the one who steadies everything while nobody steadies him. The weight that drains a man rarely arrives loudly. It lands in the corners of his day until he no longer feels as rooted as before. This is where older men lose more than they realize. Their energy thins, their focus drifts. Life starts feeling narrower in ways he didn't see coming. Not painful, just off track in a way that wakes him up. That wake-up hits like a reminder that there's still a bigger life waiting once he steps back into his own flow. This doesn't make you weak. It only means you cared more than you should have. Many men go through a kind of compassion fatigue without naming it. They keep saying, "I'll listen," until their own mind has nowhere to rest. And caring isn't a flaw at this age. It's proof that your heart never hardened, even when life tried to shape it otherwise. And the identity they fought to build becomes blurred by someone else's unresolved history. A man can care deeply without holding everything. Support is healthy, absorbing is not. And it doesn't mean he chose wrong, only that he gave more than he had to give. Stoicism offers a simple lens here. Support, but do not absorb. Be present without carrying what weakens your center. You can listen with an open heart and still keep your inner world clean. When someone you're dating vents about an old fight with their family, remember this. You can understand their frustration, but it isn't yours to hold. Taking it on doesn't help them. It only wears down your day. Here's a thing most men only understand too late. Emotional weight doesn't drain you because it's heavy. It drains you because it's constant. It pulls at the same parts of you that took years to repair. And once a man gives away his emotional bandwidth, his purpose always pays the price first. Every older man knows this moment, the second he feels his mind stepping away from the path he fought hard to build. And that's when something sharp wakes up inside him. The part that refuses to let his life be shaped by anything he didn't choose. When a man finally sees what drains him, his whole system lights up with the urge to take his power back. Not every emotion deserves a home inside you. Some are meant to pass, not stay. But clarity brings the uplift. A man who recognizes this early learns to draw lines that protect his inner pace. He realizes his steadiness isn't a service. It's his foundation. He understands that being strong doesn't mean holding everything. And he knows he's done when even the boss starts coming to him with problems. A man's foundation grows stronger when he gives his energy only to what aligns with the life he's restoring. Good men who live with intention always find their way back to this truth. And if that's the road you're on, you'll feel at home here. And once that truth settles, his strength rises again. Not from resistance, but from choosing where his energy belongs. A relationship after 50 can turn a man into a caretaker without him noticing. There comes a point in a late life connection when the roles stop feeling equal. Not because anyone intended it, but because a man who has lived through enough challenges naturally becomes the one others lean toward. Experience gives him composure. Years give him judgment, and without meaning to, he becomes the responsible one in the room. At first, it feels safe, like offering someone a ride once. Then suddenly you're their full-time driver, helping with small tasks. He ends up being the problem solver in the room before he even realizes he's taken that role, listening through familiar worries, being the solid presence she can depend on. Nothing dramatic until it is. Because here's the part men rarely expect. Responsibility grows quietly, and it grows in his path. One day he's providing support. The next, he's coordinating, planning, adjusting, shouldering. His days begin filling with duties that were never supposed to be his. Suddenly, he is the one booking appointments, answering calls, fixing problems, and keeping plans together. Jobs he never applied for. If you ever want clarity, list the tasks you handled this week. The ones that aren't yours will stand out immediately. That simple list is your time audit, a clear picture of where your week has been quietly given away. And before he realizes it, the relationship feels less like partnership and more like management. There's a deeper cost hiding underneath all of this. A man in his 50s or 60s has limited energy to waste. He isn't 25 anymore. Every hour he spends fixing someone else's world is an hour he loses from strengthening his own. And there's nothing wrong with helping, as long as you don't disappear in the process. It's not selfish to keep your energy for yourself. It's how a man protects the parts of his life that still have room to grow. And that's where older men lose the most, slowly, subtly, through obligations that dilute who they are becoming. It's the same way a slow leak empties a tank, unnoticed until the moment it's almost dry. Don't carry burdens you didn't choose. A connection worth keeping will never require you to abandon the life you've rebuilt. Sometimes the turning point arrives in a single moment. A man looks at his schedule, his thoughts, his days, and realizes how much space he has given away without meaning to. Have you ever had that period where you suddenly saw how far you drifted? If you've lived through a moment like that, you already know how costly it felt. It hits like a soft strike of honesty. He's living around someone else's chaos more than he's living inside his own purpose. He still looks like he is in charge, but his calendar tells a different story. A man only needs one reminder to pull himself back into the life he worked for. I honor the life I've earned, and I choose what protects it. Seneca once said that a man becomes wiser the moment he stops giving his strength to things that drain him. But the lift comes the instant he acknowledges it, because awareness gives him back what he thought he lost. He starts reclaiming his time. He resets the roles. He steps back into the man he worked years to become. A wiser man once said, "Men often absorb responsibility faster than they realize, especially when they feel needed." When a man protects the direction of his life, everything in that life becomes lighter. Not because he avoids caring, but because he finally takes the kind of caring that doesn't cost him himself. A late life relationship can dim the prime of a man's renaissance. There's a time it hits you after 50 when things finally align in a way they never did before. Instead of looking back, a man suddenly sees how much life is still waiting for him to claim. A good life still needs connection, just the kind that respects your world instead of rearranging it. A man steps into his best years the moment he realizes his peace isn't a luxury. It's the engine of every good thing that still lies ahead. His judgment sharpens. A man knows he has entered a new chapter when his choices finally start matching the person he's become. There's a strange truth about this age. The future gets clearer the moment you stop letting the past choose for you. A man who reaches this chapter doesn't owe anyone an explanation. The years shaped him into someone who guards his future with intention. And this is exactly why the wrong partner hits harder at this stage than it ever did earlier. It doesn't arrive with chaos. It arrives with distraction. a distraction that pulls a man away from the momentum he fought years to reclaim. This is the part many men underestimate. Compromise at 25 reshapes your weekend. Compromise at 60 reshapes your life. And that's exactly why a man at this age learns to guard the parts of his world that still have room to grow. No man should feel guilty for choosing a life that finally supports who he is now. But nothing is too late for a man who finally sees the truth of his own path. Stoicism reminds us that anything which weakens your core must be examined, not embraced. A woman who fits the stage of your life will add wisdom to your thinking, not confusion. She will treat your effort fairly instead of using it. And she will respect the space you need to stay clear inside, not guilt you for needing it. Clint Eastwood, the legendary actor and director, once mentioned that after 50, the wrong relationship can take more from a man's life than a failing movie ever could, because every adjustment at this age touches something essential: health, energy, clarity. A man entering his renaissance doesn't lose it through disaster. He loses it through small concessions that seem harmless at first. A skipped workout, a postponed project, a dream pushed further down the list because someone else's needs feel immediate. Little by little, the things he wanted for himself take the back seat, and that's the moment older men start asking the hard questions. That's when a man realizes he wasn't losing interest in his dreams. He was losing room for them to breathe. But nothing about being older means you've lost your spark. It just means you choose where it burns. Any man can slip into this without noticing, especially when his heart is in the right place. That's when a man realizes something sharp, slipping off the course he built for himself. But returning requires a decision only he can make. It's like saying yes to one favor, then another, until your entire weekend belongs to promises you don't remember making. Sometimes he ends up helping with things he didn't even know existed, like fixing a blender he's never seen before. And that's the flashpoint when a man decides he's done living on borrowed time and starts choosing what actually moves his life forward. A man must protect the sources that strengthen him, even when no one else understands why they matter. One day he looks at the life he was building and recognizes how far he's moving away from it. Not because love misled him, but because he forgot to measure what it wished he. There's a point where he sees exactly how far he drifted, and he knows it's on him to take the wheel back. From that moment on, he starts giving his energy to what actually moves his life forward. A man begins reclaiming the pieces of himself he placed on hold. He goes back to the routines that make him feel unmistakably like himself again. And he remembers he's allowed to grow at his own pace. Nothing in his life needs to be rushed anymore. It's like cleaning the smudges off your glasses. Suddenly, everything in front of you feels easier to understand. He gains his mornings, his choices, his sense of course. Tell me this: when did you last feel fully in command of your own day? And with each step, something lifts inside of him. A reminder that he's meant to grow, not shrink, in this chapter. A relationship that supports a man's renaissance will never ask him to dim it. And a relationship that dims it is one he must walk away from without hesitation. A man grows fastest when he stops chasing what slows him down. Life after 50 isn't the closing chapter. It's the one where a man finally understands the value of living on his own terms. A man doesn't age out of possibility. He ages into clarity. Because the years ahead are too valuable, and the man he's becoming is worth far more than any connection that pulls him away from himself. A man eventually reaches a point where every choice hits differently, not because he's fragile, but because he finally understands what strength actually costs. He looks back and sees the years he lost trying to keep the wrong people comfortable. And every man has done this at least once. There's no shame in learning later. He sees the weight he shouldn't have taken. He sees the moments he delayed his own growth just to avoid disappointing someone else. Every older man has that one time he thinks, "Why did I agree to that?" And the answer is always the same: distraction wrapped in a smile. And he knows he won't live the second half of his life the same way he lived the first. That's the gift of age. You stop lying to yourself about what drains you. And you stop pretending that companionship is worth it when it pulls you away from the man you were meant to become. The truth is simple. A woman who belongs in your world won't make you compromise the parts of you that took years to shape. She won't make your days smaller. She won't compete with the way you've earned. She won't make you trade your identity for company. A man after 50 doesn't need rescue. He doesn't need approval. He doesn't need validation. He needs alignment. Someone who moves with the life he's building, not someone who redirects it. And here's the thought most men only realize late, but you see it now. Your later years can be the strongest chapter of your entire life if you protect the forces that keep you moving forward. Before the weekends, take 30 seconds to write down one goal that belongs only to you. No one else's approval should shape it. If this hits something in you, tell me this. What part of your life feels worth protecting now? Freedom, mental space, a future that feels like yours. Guard them like your next decade depends on it, because it does. If someone enters your life and expands these things, let them in. If they shrink any part of it, you walk. Because a man's life at this stage should feel like an open road he's free to travel, not a driveway he keeps reversing out of. Not out of bitterness, but out of certainty. At this age, strength isn't about pushing harder. It's about choosing what keeps your life honest and open. A man who knows his direction doesn't fear letting go. He fears losing himself again. If you made it this far, thank you for spending your time with Move or Die Stoic. And if this spoke to you, if something in this message felt uncomfortably true, tell me in the comments. I choose the life that chooses me back.